Hello class, welcome to Lab 2 for MGQ 201. I am Joe, I'm one of the TAs for the course, and I'm going to be guiding you on how to complete this lab. Lab 2, again, can be found on eAssign. You'll download the lab, you'll make the changes and answer the questions, and then you'll re-upload it just like you did for Lab 1. So, Lab 2, the data again is on the first tab, and the questions are on the second. The questions have to deal a lot with Chapter 3 concepts. You're going to look at some descriptive statistics, explore some different relationships, and then evaluate a relationship using correlation. So, let's get started. First, we're going to do question 2.1, where we're going to look at descriptive statistics. We're going to report on mins, max, the average, the variance, and standard deviation for all different variables in our data set. Remember, these variables, we want to focus on the numeric quantitative data. So we're just going to focus on lecture all the way to final average, these categories. Now, since I want to use all these categories, I'm just going to simply copy and paste it right into where I want to do work. One quick tip with Excel: if you ever want to just quickly make sure that you can read all of your columns, if you quickly go to Format, Auto Fit Column Width, you'll see that it stretches it out here. So now we can pretty easily see all of the different variables and categories that I want to use. I want to find the min, the max, the average, the variance, and the standard deviation. Remember, the min is just the smallest number in a data set, max is the largest number, average is the mean, and then variance and standard deviation are two measures of variability in the data, kind of looking at the spread of the data. So, Excel has functions for all of these categories. We're going to look for min first. We're going to do equals min. Remember, you always start off a function in Excel using equal sign. Type the function you want, and then open parentheses. Now it's going to look for the data we select. We come over back to our data tab, highlight all of the data under lecture, close parentheses, and hit enter. 3% now is the min of that column. Now, because I set it up like this, I have the columns in the correct order. I can use one of Excel's key tools, relative formulas, to just simply drag this across. To drag it across, again, you just click in the bottom right corner until you see the little black cross, and just drag it to the cells you want. Now, it's going to find the min for each of these values. You can see that the letter changes up here, each one, so it corresponds to the right set of data here. It just saves a lot of time being able to use different things in Excel like that. Next, we want to find the max function, so I'm going to do an equals max. I'm going to highlight all of the data again, close parentheses, hit enter, and now it's found the greatest or largest value in that set of data. Once again, I'm going to drag it across. Going with the common theme, now I'm going to find the average using the equals average function. One other quick tip in Excel is that if you don't want to hold and drag down across a set of data, say you have thousands of data points, if you hold Control-Shift and hit the down arrow key, it'll highlight all of the data. It'll go down to the last actual point. You can also do that to the right to get rows, but for this purpose, we just want the column. Close parentheses, hit enter, and we get the average. And I will again just drag that across. Keep in mind, you can change the number of decimal places using this tool up here. Usually, for our purposes, we like to have 1 or 2. A lot of decimal places don't really add anything to it, and so keeping it formatted nicely just helps clean up the data and the appearance of your work. Variance, we're going to do an equals VAR dot either P or S. Remember, there's two types of variances, one for population data, one for sample. In our case, we have sample data. This set of data is not a population of the entire class, it's just a subset of it. And so it's just a sample, we're going to use .s. Next, again, highlight the data, close parenthesis, hit enter, and variance you can also just drag across. Finally, we have standard deviation. We're going to do equals stdev, and again, same thing, there's a .p or .s, sample .s, and one last time I will highlight the data, close parentheses, hit enter, and drag it across. And just like that, we have our question 2.1. Okay, next, I'm going to do question 2.2 over here. Question 2.2 asks for a contingency table to explore the relationship between final grade and gender. We're going to use a pivot table to do this. Pivot tables are a great tool for organizing and classifying data. So I'm going to highlight all of my data. On Windows, you just simply go to Insert, Pivot Table. Under Macs, it's under Data, and you'll find Pivot Table again. But once you have this window pop up, they're very similar. So I'm going to go to Existing Worksheet. I want to place my pivot table right here next to 2.2. Hit OK. Now we'll scroll over a little bit. Now you'll see when you click inside your pivot table, this pivot table fields box pop up. Now you can kind of organize the data how you want. We want gender, so I'm going to pick that in the rows. We also want final grade, so I'm going to put that into the columns. You see clicking the little check box, it'll put it down here somewhere. You can very simply just grab it and drag it. And finally, we need to put something in values, so I'm going to put final grade there again. And now you can see that we have a contingency table comparing females and males, as well as all of their possible grades. I also like to make my pivot tables banded rows. I think it just looks a little nicer. And then you can kind of pick one that suits you. And we're done with question 2.2. 2.3, we're going to create another contingency table. This time, we're going to look at final grade and class status. We have freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, instead of gender. One of the nice things about pivot tables is that you can copy it and paste it, and the same pivot table will pop up, and the same options will also pop up. So again, we don't want gender anymore, but we do want class level. Now you can clearly see that one freshman got an A, whereas 5 freshmen got B minuses. Again, contingency tables are very useful for comparing data and organizing it in specific ways. Okay, lastly, for the last question I'm going to show you guys, I'm going to do question 2.4. This is going to evaluate the relationship between midterm grade and final exam grade. We're going to use one of Excel's functions here, correlation. To use correlation, all you have to do is equals quarrel. It'll pop up. Correlation is a great tool for comparing two sets of data and seeing the relationship between them. As you'll see, to use quarrel, I'm going to highlight all of the data in my midterm column, which is what I want to see, and then comma, and then all of my data in the final column. We're going to see what the relationship is between the two tests, and it is 0.358846. Again, I'll just lower the amount of decimals a couple, and then we also want to write a relationship about it. Remember, positive correlation means that as one score goes up, the other score goes up. In this case, it makes sense. Those who did better on the midterm also did better on the final. But it's not an extremely strong correlation. Correlations go from -1 to 1, with -1 being perfect negative and 1 being perfect positive. So there is a relationship there, but it's not perfect or extremely strong, close to 1. Thank you. And for the last 2 questions, just make sure you pay attention to lecture, as Dr. Amo will go over what she's looking for her assumptions, as well as the conclusions about the data. Thank you all, and have a nice day.